It was the third morning at boot camp, and I was already feeling the weight of it all. They didn't say a word, but I could feel their eyes on me. The new recruit, the one who didn't fit in. My boots weren't polished enough, my uniform too loose, and my hair too long. I was already struggling to keep up with the drills, and today would be no different. "Private Harrison," Drill Sergeant Miller's voice cut through the air, sharp as a razor. "You think you're special, huh? You think you're too good to follow orders?" His words hit harder than I expected. I tried to look up, but my eyes were glued to the ground. He walked past me, the heel of his boots stomping in rhythm with his every step. I could feel the others' stares. The squad didn't even try to hide their smirks. Private Jacobs, the one with the swagger, snorted. "Hey, Private Harrison, did you forget to brush your teeth this morning? Or is that just how you always look?" The others snickered, and I swallowed the bitter taste of embarrassment that crept into my throat. What did I expect? I was out of place. I wasn't built like the others. No muscles, no natural confidence, just a girl from a small town trying to prove she could make it. I wasn't one of the tough, loudmouths who were born for this life. I didn't have the swagger. I didn't even belong in the same room. But I didn't say anything. I just stood there, letting their words wash over me like rain on a tin roof. It stung, but I wouldn't let it break me. After PT, when the others headed to the mess hall, I stayed behind. I wasn't hungry. I just needed space. The mess hall was noisy, crowded with recruits trying to avoid being noticed, trying to look like they belonged. Private Jacobs caught me off guard as I sat in the corner, keeping my head down. "Hey, Private," he called as if I was some kind of joke. "Don't sit in the back like that. You're not invisible, you know." I didn't respond. What was there to say? But Jacobs wasn't done. "Don't tell me you actually think you can hang with the rest of us. You look like you'd pass out after one real run." A few other recruits laughed. I could feel my cheeks burning, but I stayed silent. Just like I'd been taught, never show weakness, never let them see you crack. Across the room, Specialist Jake Carter was eating his breakfast, eyes on his tray. He was older, more experienced. He noticed what was happening, I could tell. But he didn't speak up. He didn't defend me. No one ever did. I wasn't worth the fight. I pushed my food around on the tray. I could feel the weight of their words hanging over me, but I refused to let them win. I couldn't. The drills that followed were the hardest I had ever faced. My legs burned. My lungs screamed for air, but I kept pushing. Every lap, every push-up felt like I was dragging myself through mud, fighting against the pull of gravity itself. Every time I lagged behind, Jacobs was there, laughing under his breath. "Maybe if you spent less time looking at your boots, you could actually finish this run, Harrison." I kept my head down, ignoring him. I couldn't let him see how much it hurt. Every insult, every joke about my lack of speed felt like a knife twisting deeper into my pride. The drill instructor barked out orders, but the words were lost to the ringing in my ears. I had to prove them wrong, had to show them I was capable, even if it wasn't today, even if it wasn't tomorrow. Later, as the squad fell into their barracks, I could hear their whispers. "Private Harrison's never gonna make it. She's too weak." The words were laced with disbelief, but there was a cruelty to them. The kind of cruelty that only existed when someone thought they were better than you. I crawled into my bunk, pulling my blanket up over my head. The weight of it all felt unbearable. The dreams of proving myself seemed impossible. But then, in the silence of the night, I felt something I hadn't felt all day. It was a small, almost unnoticeable nod, but it came from Jake, across the room. He didn't speak, didn't offer a word of comfort. He just nodded. It wasn't much, but in that moment, I knew he saw me. He knew what I was going through, and maybe, just maybe, that was enough to keep me going. The next day, I woke up before anyone else, slipping into my boots and uniform with a quiet determination. I wasn't going to let them break me. Not today. Maybe they were right. I was struggling, but I wasn't done yet. And no matter how hard they tried to break me, I wouldn't quit. I had a long way to go, but I'd take it one step at a time. I couldn't change their minds, but I could show them I belonged here. I wasn't just some out-of-place recruit. I was Private Sarah Harrison, and I was here to stay. If this story resonates with you, Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next chapters of this journey. The days dragged on like a never-ending cycle of pain and exhaustion. Each morning I woke up before the others, pushing myself through the physical training that had become my life. But no matter how hard I tried, it never felt like enough. They could all see my struggle. They could all see how I was failing. Private Jacobs made sure of it. He never missed an opportunity to remind me how out of place I was. "What's the matter, Harrison?" He'd sneer as I huffed through another run. "You think you're going to make it? Look at you, you can barely keep up." The worst part wasn't the words, it was the truth behind them. I wasn't strong enough. I wasn't fast enough. No matter how hard I pushed, I was always one step behind. One night I stayed up late in the barracks, staring at the ceiling, my muscles aching, my mind racing. I heard the sound of laughter from the other side of the room, Jacobs and his group cracking jokes. They weren't talking about me, not directly, but I knew the look on their faces. They knew I was out of my league. I didn't belong here. I didn't sleep much that night. The silence in the barracks was crushing, broken only by the occasional snore or the sound of boots shifting on the cold floor. Everyone else was used to it, used to the struggle, the grueling days, the constant pressure, but I wasn't, and I was beginning to wonder if I'd ever be. The next morning, the physical training felt like a punishment. My legs burned during every lap. I could barely lift my arms to complete the push-ups. Jacobs was right there, his mocking voice pushing me to keep going, to fail. "Come on, Harrison," he taunted. "Are you even trying? You're embarrassing yourself out here." I could hear the others laughing behind me. The snickers felt like daggers. I wanted to quit. Every part of me screamed to just stop, but I couldn't. Just as I thought I might collapse, I felt a tap on my shoulder. It was Jake Carter. He didn't say anything, just handed me a water bottle, his eyes steady. It wasn't much, but in that moment, it meant everything. He didn't laugh. He didn't mock me. He just saw me. I took the water, gulping it down, grateful for the silence he offered. He didn't offer words of encouragement, didn't say, "You got this." He just acknowledged that I was trying, and in the world we were in, that was enough. After PT, the whole squad filed into the chow hall. It wasn't much. Greasy eggs, rubbery bacon, and some questionable-looking hash browns. But we ate in silence, the clatter of trays filling the air. Jacobs, trippy, wasn't far off. He leaned across the table, eyes narrowing. "Think you can make it, Harrison?" He didn't look at me when he asked, but I could feel his eyes boring into me. "Everyone else has their shit together. You're just here to waste our time." The guys around him laughed. It was the same old routine. Every day, every moment, I was reminded that I wasn't enough. Not yet. But this time, something in me snapped. I didn't speak, didn't try to defend myself. Instead, I grabbed my tray, stood up, and left. I didn't care anymore. I walked out of the mess hall, the laughter from behind me echoing in my ears. I found a quiet corner of the base, away from the noise. I felt like I was sinking deeper into the loneliness. But then, something unexpected happened. Specialist Carter found me again, sitting on a bench. "You don't have to listen to them," he said quietly. "You're here for a reason." I looked at him, confused. "Why do you even care?" Jake shrugged, a small, almost imperceptible smile tugging at his lips. "I just don't like seeing people give up. That's all." I didn't know what to say. He wasn't like the others. He didn't want anything from me. He wasn't trying to make me into something I wasn't. He just saw me for who I was. It wasn't much, but for the first time, I felt like maybe I wasn't invisible. Maybe, just maybe, I had a chance. Days passed, and the struggle didn't get easier. It just kept coming. But I kept pushing. Every morning, every run, every drill. I started to notice small changes. My legs didn't feel as heavy. My lungs didn't burn as much. I still lagged behind, still fell short of expectations. But I was trying. And that was enough for me. The turning point came one afternoon during a survival skills test. We were tasked with navigating a treacherous course designed to mimic combat conditions. The heat was brutal, the air thick with dust. The squad was running ahead, laughing, joking, as if it were all some game. I was sweating, my vision blurred, but I refused to stop. I couldn't afford to stop. Halfway through, my foot caught on a rock, and I went down hard. My knee hit the ground first, then my elbow. Pain shot through my body, and for a moment, I thought about quitting. But I couldn't. Not after everything. I pushed myself to my feet, gritting my teeth against the pain. The squad had already passed me, their voices fading as they moved ahead. "Come on, Harrison," Jacobs yelled back, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "You gonna lie there all day, or are you gonna get up?" I didn't look at him. I didn't say a word. I just kept moving, step by step, despite the pain, despite the exhaustion. Then I heard a shout from behind. It was Jake. He had noticed I was falling behind, and despite the heat and the pressure, he slowed down, waiting for me. "You good?" he asked, his voice steady, not mocking, not annoyed. I nodded, though my chest felt tight, my knee throbbing. "Just keep going," I said. "I'll catch up." He didn't argue. He just stayed with me. And that was all it took. The rest of the squad was already at the finish line when I crossed. But I wasn't last anymore. I didn't let myself fall behind. As I reached the end of the course, Jacob shot me one last look. But this time, there was no laughter. His face was tight, his eyes hard. And for the first time, I saw doubt in his gaze. Jake gave me a nod, his silent respect speaking volumes. And at that moment, something inside me changed. I didn't need anyone else's approval anymore. I wasn't here to fit in. I was here to prove to myself that I could do this. If this story resonates with you, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next chapters of this journey. It was a day I'd been dreading for weeks, the final survival course before graduation. Everyone talked about it like it was some kind of test of everything we had learned, the culmination of our training. But to me, it felt like the moment I would either prove myself or get washed out for good. As soon as we lined up for the briefing, I could see Jacob standing there, his usual cocky grin plastered on his face. He was practically oozing confidence. He'd been making it clear for days that he thought I wasn't cut out for this. "You sure you're ready for this, Harrison?" he said to me in a mocking tone, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Not sure if your boots can keep up with your mouth." The squad laughed. I didn't even respond. What was there to say? My body already felt like it was carrying 1,000 pounds, and now the mental weight of his words made it feel even worse. But I wasn't going to let him see it. The course was brutal, an obstacle course designed to test our physical and mental strength. We had to crawl under barbed wire, cross narrow bridges, and climb walls, all while carrying heavy packs and dealing with the heat. The sun beat down relentlessly, making every step feel heavier. Every breath felt like it might be my last. But I kept moving. I had to. Every time I fell behind, I could hear Jacob's voice ringing in my ears. "Come on, Harrison, keep up. What's the matter, huh? Too slow for you?" The others didn't laugh this time, but I could hear the skepticism in their silence. They didn't think I could finish this. I didn't think I could either, but I wasn't about to quit. When I reached the wall, my arms felt like they were made of lead. My legs were shaking. But I reached for the top, pulling myself up slowly, gritting my teeth against the pain. Halfway up, my hand slipped and I fell back down. The impact hit my ribs hard, knocking the wind out of me. Jacobs was already at the top, standing there watching me. He didn't move to help. "Guess you're just not cut out for this, huh?" he called down to me, his voice dripping with smugness. "Maybe you should just quit now and save yourself the embarrassment." I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something at him, but I didn't. Instead, I stood up, dusted myself off, and climbed the wall again. It took everything I had, but I made it to the top this time, barely managing to pull myself over. As I dropped down the other side, I could feel the sweat pouring down my face, my muscles screaming at me to stop, but I kept moving. Then came the rope bridge. It was swaying dangerously in the wind, and I could hear the others ahead of me shouting to each other, encouraging each other to keep going. But when I stepped onto the bridge, I froze. The rope swayed under my weight, and I could see the ground far below. It felt like I was standing on nothing. My stomach twisted, and for a moment I thought I might fall. "Are you kidding me, Harrison?" Jacob shouted from the other side of the bridge. "Come on, stop looking down and get moving." I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves. Every step felt like a lifetime. each one more unstable than the last. I could hear my heartbeat pounding in my ears, louder than the wind whipping around me. But I forced myself to keep going, one step at a time. And then just as I thought I was halfway across, I felt something give way beneath me. The rope snapped, my foot slipped, and for a brief, terrifying moment, I was hanging by nothing but my hands, dangling over the edge. I screamed, but no one could hear me. Somehow I managed to pull myself back up, my fingers digging into the ropes, my arms burning. I took a second to catch my breath, then finished, crossing the bridge, my legs trembling beneath me. But when I reached the end, I saw something I wasn't expecting. Jacobs was waiting there, looking at me with a smirk on his face, his arms crossed. "Nice of you to finally show up," he said, as if I hadn't just almost fallen to my death. "Took you long enough." Something inside me snapped. I had kept it together all this time, pushed through the pain, ignored the insults, but in that moment I couldn't take it anymore. I looked at Jacobs and I said the only thing that felt right. "You don't know anything about me." He stepped back, his grin faltering. "What?" "You have no idea what I'm capable of," I said, my voice barely above a whisper, but full of something raw, something deep. "You don't know what it's like to push yourself past everything you've ever thought you could do, and you don't know what it's like to be underestimated every single damn day." I didn't wait for him to respond. I turned on my heel and ran to the next part of the course, the one that involved a series of brutal sprints with full gear on. I could hear the others behind me, but I didn't care anymore. I was done with trying to prove anything to them. This was about me. The sprints felt like they might kill me. My legs were on fire. My lungs felt like they were filled with concrete, but I pushed forward. With each step, I let the weight of their words, their doubt, burn away. This was my moment. I reached the finish line. I didn't wait for anyone to catch up. I didn't want to. And just as I crossed, I heard a voice behind me. It was Jake. "Not bad, Harrison," he said, his tone more genuine than I had ever heard it. "You proved them wrong." But then, just as I thought the victory was mine, I heard something that made my stomach drop. "Private Harrison!" It was Sergeant Miller, the one person who could make or break me. He stormed over to me, his face red with frustration. "What the hell was that back there? You think this is a game? You think you can just run off like that, without following orders?" I froze. All the pride, all the accomplishment, faded away in an instant. "Answer me, Harrison," he barked. I was just—" "You were just what?" he interrupted. "This isn't some kind of free-for-all. You think you're better than the rest of them? You think you get to skip the rules?" I couldn't find the words. It was like all the energy had been drained out of me. But then, something unexpected happened. Jacobs, of all people, spoke up. "Sergeant, with all due respect—" Miller turned to him, his eyes narrowing. "What did you say, Private?" "I said, with all due respect, you might want to take a look at what she just did," Jacobs said, his voice more serious than I had ever heard it. "She pushed through that course when half of us couldn't. She's got more guts than anyone here, and you're treating her like she's nothing." The words hit like a punch. For a moment I thought I imagined it. But no, Jacobs was standing up for me. Sergeant Miller paused, his expression unreadable. Then without a word he turned and walked away. I couldn't believe it. Jacobs, the one who had mocked me every step of the way, had just defended me. I looked at him, still trying to process what had happened. He met my gaze, his face hard. "I don't like doing this," he said quietly, "but you earned it." For the first time since I arrived at boot camp, I felt like I might actually belong. If this story resonates with you, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next chapters of this journey. The tension in the air was thick, and I could feel it pressing down on me with every step I took. The past few weeks had been a blur of physical training, mental exhaustion, and endless mockery from the others. I had pushed myself harder than I ever thought possible. But now, standing at the starting line of the final test, I wasn't sure I was ready. It was the culmination of everything we'd been through, a tactical mission scenario designed to test everything we had learned. The course was brutal, and the pressure was on. Sergeant Miller had made it clear this was the moment where the weak would be weeded out, and only the strongest would survive. There was no room for mistakes, no time for hesitation. Jacobs was standing just a few feet away from me, his usual cocky grin plastered on his face. He had been taunting me since day one, and I could see that he was relishing the idea of me failing this test. "You ready to fail, Harrison?" he sneered. "Don't want to embarrass yourself in front of everyone, do you?" I didn't respond. What could I say? At this point, his words didn't carry the same sting they once had. I had been beaten down enough to know that I had to fight through it, no matter what. This wasn't just about him. This was about me. The exercise was intense. We had to infiltrate an enemy base, retrieve a package, and extract without being detected. It was timed. It was dangerous. And we were told that failure meant we'd be sent back home. For some of us, that wasn't an option. I kept my eyes on the task ahead, blocking out the mocking voices of Jacobs and the others. We moved in teams, with me partnered up with a quiet guy named Private Walker. He wasn't one for words, but I appreciated that. His actions spoke louder than any words ever could. The course was set up to challenge everything we had learned. Stealth, speed, strategy. We had to crawl under wires, avoid patrols, and get through several checkpoints undetected. I moved through the first few obstacles without much trouble, my body aching from the previous days of training, but my mind sharp, my movements calculated. But as we reached the final stretch, everything fell apart. I was leading the way, creeping through a narrow corridor, when I heard it, the unmistakable sound of footsteps approaching. I froze. I motioned for Walker to stay down, and we pressed ourselves against the cold concrete wall. My heart was pounding in my chest, and I could feel the weight of the moment. This was it. One mistake, and we were done. The footsteps drew closer. I held my breath, my hand gripping the rifle tightly, praying that the soldier wouldn't hear us. But of course he did. "Freeze!" a voice shouted from behind us. I spun around, my heart in my throat. A soldier in full combat gear stood in the doorway, his weapon aimed right at me. The mission was over. I could hear Jacob's voice in the back of my mind, laughing at me, mocking me. This was what he had been waiting for. He was probably somewhere behind me, smirking as he watched me fail again. But then something unexpected happened. I didn't panic. Instead, I did the one thing I hadn't been trained to do. I took a breath, steadied my rifle, and aimed. Without thinking, I fired. The shot rang out, a single precise hit. The soldier went down, and the course went silent. For a moment, I couldn't believe what I had just done. I had acted without hesitation, without fear. I had done what I had trained for. I had done what I never thought I could do. Walker looked at me, his eyes wide. "What the hell, Harrison?" he said, his voice shaky. "That was, insane." I couldn't speak. I was still processing what had just happened. I had passed the test, but in doing so, I had broken the rules. The enemy soldier was down, but we hadn't completed the extraction. We moved quickly, but I could feel the eyes on me as we made our way to the extraction point. The others were ahead of us, and I knew Jacobs was among them. I could feel his gaze burning into my back. When we finally reached the extraction point, Sergeant Miller was waiting for us. His eyes were cold, assessing. "You failed," he said bluntly, looking at me like I had just let him down. I blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" "You didn't follow the mission parameters," Miller said. "You took out the enemy, yes, but you didn't complete the extraction. That's a failure, Harrison. You know the rules." I felt my stomach drop. All that effort, all that training, and it wasn't enough. I had followed my instincts, and now it was all for nothing. I had let down the one person I thought I could prove myself to. But then, just as I thought it was all over, Jacob spoke up. "Sergeant, with all due respect, Harrison just did what none of us could do. She took down the target, clean, no hesitation." Miller shot Jacobs a glare. "That's not the point. The mission wasn't completed." But Jacobs wasn't backing down. "You saw it, sir. She did what was necessary. She acted when it counted, and we all saw it. We saw what she's capable of." For a moment, it felt like time stood still. Miller's gaze shifted from Jacobs to me, and then back to Jacobs. I could feel the weight of his judgment. I had failed, but Jacobs was fighting for me. It was like everything had turned upside down in an instant. Miller's shoulders tensed, and he let out a long breath. "Fine. "You're not out, Harrison, but don't expect any more chances." It wasn't a victory, it wasn't even a win, but it was something. For the first time, Jacobs had stood up for me. For the first time, he had seen me as something more than a joke. As I walked back to the barracks, the weight of the day started to settle in. I had failed, yes, but I had also proven something. Not just to Jacobs, not just to the squad, but to myself. I wasn't done yet. If this story resonates with you, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next chapters of this journey. The days after the mission were the quietest I'd experienced since arriving at boot camp. The weight of the test hung heavy over me, and for the first time I allowed myself to breathe. It wasn't a victory. It wasn't what I had hoped for. But it was something. I had pushed myself, stepped up when no one thought I could, and I had earned their respect. Even Jacobs, who had once written me off, was no longer laughing. He kept his distance, but I saw the shift in his eyes. He didn't see me as a joke anymore. But the battle wasn't over. The final day of training came, and with it, the kind of tension that you could cut with a knife. The squad was preparing for graduation, but the air in the barracks was thick with unsaid words, unacknowledged feelings. Jacobs hadn't spoken to me directly since the mission, but every now and then, I caught him watching me. His eyes a little less cocky, a little more thoughtful. I wasn't sure what to expect when the ceremony started. Part of me thought it would be like every other day. The same routine, the same cheers, the same mocking smiles. But as the formation began, I felt something shift. Sergeant Miller was standing at the front, his eyes scanning the room. He didn't speak right away, just let the silence stretch between us. I could feel everyone waiting for him to say something, waiting for the judgment that always came at the end. But when he spoke, his words were different. "Private Harrison," he said, his voice cutting through the tension. "You've done something here that many didn't think you could. You've proven yourself, even when it seemed impossible." I froze. I didn't expect this. "You've made it to the end," he continued, his gaze shifting to the rest of the squad. "And because of that, you've earned my respect, and you've earned theirs." I could hear the murmur in the crowd. The others were looking at me, some with surprise, some with a newfound respect. I could feel it, the shift. It was happening right there in front of me. I looked over at Jacobs, who was standing near the back. He didn't smirk. He didn't sneer. He was watching me, his arms folded. But there was something different in the way he looked at me. The ceremony continued, and I stood there trying to process what had just happened. I wasn't the strongest recruit. I wasn't the fastest. I wasn't even the most experienced. But in that moment, I realized something. None of that mattered. What mattered was that I had fought, and I had fought for myself. I had earned my place step by step. Afterward, when the rest of the squad was celebrating, I found a quiet corner to sit. I didn't need the cheers. I didn't need the applause. What I needed was this moment of quiet, of realization. Jake found me, as he always did. He didn't say anything, just sat beside me. For a moment, there was nothing but the sound of the crowd outside, the distant chatter and laughter. Then he turned to me, his voice low but steady. "You did it," he said, almost to himself. "You proved everyone wrong." I couldn't speak. What could I say? The words didn't seem enough. Instead, I nodded. It was all I could do. I didn't need to prove anything to anyone else anymore. I had proved it to myself. In the days that followed, things started to settle. The mocking had stopped. The whispers had died down. I wasn't the weakest link anymore. I had made it. And for the first time since arriving, I felt like I belonged. But it wasn't just the victory that stayed with me. It was the journey, the struggle, the quiet strength that had carried me through it all. I walked away from boot camp not just as a soldier, but as someone who had learned the value of resilience, of perseverance, and of quiet dignity. I had faced my demons, had fought against the odds, and had come out stronger on the other side. As I looked out over the field, the wind ruffling my hair, I realized that this wasn't the end. This was just the beginning. And wherever I went next, I knew one thing for sure. I was no longer invisible. If this story resonates with you, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next chapters of this journey. The sun was setting over the field, the light casting long shadows across the barracks. I stood there beneath the American flag, my eyes steady, watching as the wind whispered through the fabric. The flag, old, worn, and proud, fluttered in the breeze. It was a symbol of everything I had fought for, everything I had learned. I wasn't the same person who had walked into this place months ago. The girl who had been underestimated, laughed at, dismissed as weak, was now standing tall. The squad, now silent, moved past me, some offering a subtle nod of respect. Others, like Jacobs, didn't say a word, but the look in his eyes said everything. The doubts were gone. The mockery, the sneers, all washed away in the sweat of the trials we had faced. I wasn't looking for applause. I didn't need validation from anyone anymore, but I felt the weight of something greater. Fun. The kind of brotherhood built not on words but on shared experience, mutual respect, and a sense of purpose that only those who have walked the hard road can understand. The lesson was clear. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Injustice, prejudice, they are only the first hurdles. It's your response to them that shapes who you are. Actions speak louder than words. And in the end, it wasn't my words that proved my worth. It was the quiet persistence, the refusal to quit, even when it felt impossible. So here's what I want to leave you with. No matter where you start, no matter what people think of you, you have the power to prove them wrong. You have the strength to break the silence and stand tall in your dignity. Never forget that. If this story resonates with you, share your thoughts or your own experiences in the comments below. Like the video if you believe in the strength of resilience and brotherhood, and subscribe for more stories that speak to the heart of what it means to fight for something bigger than yourself. Take care, stay strong, and always remember, you're never alone in this fight.